Okay, continuing on with 15.1, this is number 5. We get a picture here and we get the functions identified. This is f of x equals x plus 1 and g of x equals negative x minus 1. And then we have the visual representation, the graph of this. Remember, this is the x-axis and the y-axis. So I'm going to show you two different methods here. I'm going to show you one of these with graphing method, and then the other one will be similar to what we saw in problem 2, the substitution method. If they didn't give us these values here, we could still, or the function identified here, we could still find the value by using this or graphing method. What this tells us is this tells us where to go on the x-axis. Okay, so if I think about this and I walk out here, or visualize walking 4 steps out here, what I'd want to do then is I would look for the f function, so because that's what's listed first here. So if I look down here, I see the f function right here. Okay, and what I had to do is I had to look down. This is 3 units, so I looked down 3 units to see the f function. So the f function is -3, and then if I stand on the spot -4 here and look up, I see the g function here. Okay, and I would look over here to find the value, and it's at 3. So when I'm standing on -4, the g function, okay, the g function has a value of 3. And then what I do is I add those two together because of my instruction in the problem, and I end up with 0. So that's kind of the graphing method. You go stand on a certain spot, or you walk on the x-axis, visualize walking over there, and then look for the value. Okay, so this one, if you were going to do it graphing, you would come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You look and find the value of the g function and the f function, and you subtract them. But since we're given this here, okay, we can do similar to problem number 2, and we can take this input value of 5 and we can put it into the functions here. So if I put the 5, remember this is my input or my domain, and I'm going to input that into here, so I get -5 minus 1, and then I'm going to subtract because it says subtract, and I'm going to put 5 into this function here, the f function, and I get 5x plus 1. So I'm going to put that, or 5 plus 1, sorry. And then what I get here is -6 minus 5. -6 minus 5. And I get 5 plus 1 is 6. Got to get the easy math right, okay? And I get -12. And then inputting -5 into the g function, okay, I get -5 minus 1. And then I'm going to take that times, remember the times, and I'm going to put -5 into this function. I have -5 plus 1. Okay, so you might want to put this in a parenthesis and maybe put this in a parenthesis. Kind of helps a little bit, but it gets a little messy too. We get 5 minus 1 is 4. -5 plus 1 is -4. And then I'm going to multiply those two together and get -16. Okay. And then here, I'm going to put -6. That's my input value. I'm going to put it into the f function. So I get -6 plus 1 over -6. So I'm going to put -6 minus -6 minus 1. I get -5 over, careful with your signs here, that's 6 minus 1 is 5, so I get over 5. And then we can do this division here, and we get -1. Okay. All right. So that's the graphing method, and then we just use the good old substitution method that we learned on problem number 2 on these. Okay. So don't let the graph scare you off.